767-8563. Again, that's 800-767-8563. Without further ado, thank you for helping us today. Sean and
All right, thank you for joining us. Can y'all hear me?
No.
Okay, now, yes, okay. All right, so just want to start by saying that organizers invited 5 legislators, legislative leaders of both parties to the chambers, but unfortunately, Senate Minority Leader Brad Hutto couldn't make it today. So, he sends his regrets and his regards. Yes, I'm sure. We're kind of lopsided here. I'll start over here. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Shane Massey. Good morning. I live in Edgefield. I represent portions of Aiken, Edgefield, Lexington, McCormick, and Saluda counties in the Senate.
All right, on the other side of the lobby, we'll start this way. House Majority Leader, why don't you
My name is Todd Rutherford, and I represent Richland County. I live right down the street, and all the respectful questions can go to them, and all the disrespect questions.
Representative Richie Gallo from Chesterfield County. I represent Collins, Chesterfield, and Lancaster County.
I'm Representative David High. I represent Pickens County, House District 4, which is served as the House Republican Majority Leader. This is my second term as Majority Leader. Thank you all for allowing us to be here.
All right, we want to thank you for being here. Especially the first week of session, which is a little busy. So I want to spread these questions around fairly, and y'all, after I ask one of you, and you finish, then you'll return in briefly.
Taking shots already.
Waiting for my first question. Come on, I know we got some lawyers in here. You don't do better than that. Go ahead. Or are you just taking all of the questions? Okay.
There was a comment earlier about lack of legislation on the north and south Carolina.
Right down there on the end. Right down there on the end.
Yes, that can be me. So there's been legislation introduced a number of times over several years. I think the House has passed legislation a couple of times, I think. It has never made it through the Senate. And I think there are a number of people who have different issues with it. The most common thing that I hear from senators who've expressed some concern about it has been just the general idea of treating victims differently, which the legislation necessarily does. And I think there's a good bit of opposition to that point. There were other concerns raised about specific provisions of it. There were questions about silencing religious speech in some areas. I think that could probably be handled. But there are general concerns about how victims would be treated and how some people would be treated differently under the law. I think there are a number of us who would prefer not to get into that. But in any event, that's something that I expect is going to be, that's not going away. I suspect that you're going to continue to have people pushing back, and there will probably at some point be a debate on that, and probably be a vote at some point. But so far that hasn't happened.
Well, her hand went up. I don't know if it's related, and I'd like to hear her comment too.
You said there's significant opposition. I think you used a different word. Could you say more about how many people we should be talking to if we want to make this happen? And could you say what your position on it is, since you're in the Senate and could help bring it to the floor?
I don't know that I could give you a specific number because there was never a vote. I would say it's going to be right at half the body, and actually actually with elections, it may be more than that now. I don't, so for me, you guys, not me personally, so I do not support it. Because and for the reasons that I just articulated, I don't like the idea of the law treating victims differently. I don't like the law saying that this victim is more important than that victim. If both victims sustain the same type of injury, the same type of assault, I think the penalty ought to be the same. And if our penalties are inadequate, then I think we need to increase our penalties. But I don't think we should treat victims differently. That's my most fundamental problem. I've got other issues, but my most fundamental problem is that. That's the one that I've not been able to get around.
Do any of the panel members have a different opinion?
Oh, absolutely.
Probably all of them.
And my name is Todd Rutherford again, and let me just kind of give you a little background. This is not Washington, D.C., and we all see each other every day. We get along, we talk, we sit down and eat. We are friends, but we are also more friends on the House side than they are on the Senate side. They do things a little bit different over there, and the House has always been about coming and doing the work of the people. And it was very clear to the rest of the country, 40 some odd states, that after the Charleston massacre, we needed a hate crimes bill. Now, to that end, and to the Senator's point, does it treat victims differently? Well, we already have it. It's replete in our law that if you threaten the life of a public official, there's a greater penalty. If you threaten the life of a police officer, if you harm a police officer, there's a greater penalty. That's all throughout the law. So I don't know where that particular opposition comes from. We do it all the time. And so in the House, we have passed a hate crimes bill like the past 4 years, in simple recognition that hate for any reason should not be allowed to prosper in a state like South Carolina. And for those of you that have traveled, that have been in the minority, that have been a Christian in a Muslim country, that have been a Jew in a Muslim country, that have been a Muslim in a Christian country, and felt that like maybe they were different and being excised out because of that difference. Imagine being in a church on a Wednesday night and someone comes in because they want to create a race war, and so they walk in with a 45 caliber pistol and they start shooting people. Imagine what that must have felt like when this was our colleague. This is somebody that we served with. This is a friend of ours. So the fact that the Senate has not passed legislation to say that those victims shouldn't be treated better, should not be subjected to someone believing that because of their difference, they deserve to be victims, is wrong. Is wrong. That was his only gripe, is that they were black and he wanted to create a race war. And that we should send a message is wrong, period, point blank. Whether prosecutors use it, and I have some questions about how it would be used, is a different story. But should we, as a General Assembly, send that message? Absolutely. The House has done it for several years, and the House is dominated by Republicans, and they have passed it. And so, no, I don't accept the excuse for the Senate. And by the way, this is a debate that can take up the entire time, so I'll let Sean tell me to stop.
Yeah, we can talk about this for a while.
He'd still be wrong. We can continue to talk.
What non-Christian religions have been asked to open session with legislative prayer? I will say that there's chaplains on both sides in terms of the session itself. But why don't you answer in terms of how we decide to open prayer meeting?
Because we have a chaplain that opens up by legislation and is voted on every year.
We have a chaplain elected by the House and the Senate. I mean, that gentleman, he is a retired minister, and ever since I've been there, we've had a retired minister. I think we want, I don't have. They come and they open up session every single day. We have a quick devotion, and we have a prayer, and we do the pledge of allegiance every single day. That's what we do, the same way in the Senate. And they're elected, they're paid the minimum sum, just a few dollars just to kind of cover their expenses and cover their time. But, we don't have someone different come in every single day. We have an elected chaplain that comes in every day.
And it's pretty much a non-denominational prayer. It's done at the beginning of the session, at the very beginning. And so I can't promise you, I've heard it a lot, that I'm not there at the beginning. Thank you, David, for pointing that out. But it is pretty much non-denominational. In the Democratic caucus, we did have a rabbi come in and give our opening prayer one time. And so I think it's non-denominational most times. I don't know how to say that.
It depends on the day. I mean, we have the same process. So I do think there are some places around the country where they invite different people in every day, or maybe on a weekly basis, to open the chambers. But we don't do that here. We've heard we have permanent chaplain in each body, and they can be. I agree with Representative Rutherford. I mean, I think most of the time they are more non-denominational. That they do. I mean, they also reflect what's going on in the world, what's going on in the state. Lots of times the devotion that we have, the prayer that we have, will be a response to events that have been happening around. So I think that's a good thing. They tend to respond to what we're seeing, what people are feeling.
And one thing, we have, a session is 2 years, and so at the end of that 2-year session, our chaplain, I don't know what happens in the Senate, but our chaplain will give us a little book of his devotions. He gets it put in a book form and gives us a book. He puts it on our desk. It's the devotions. He used those 2 years of session. Everyone I keep mine every year, but he puts those. I guess he puts it on. I guess you get it too, but even though you're not there to hear it. But,
In the session, I hear it every time.
But we get a little booklet that has every one of his devotions in it for every day that he's there.
I can attest, Tom was never there. Let me for a second just be a legislator advocate for this question. Having just lived it and served with some of you, and then run into Shane's chamber frequently to try to handle issues as well. What's the best way that constituents, groups, particularly on religious liberty issues, can reach out to the legislators and try to find a solution or get legislation passed, instead of sometimes like I heard, hey, if you vote this way, you're a terrible person and I hate you. What's the best way for folks in South Carolina to reach out to gentlemen like yourselves or whoever might represent them to try to get the ball moving in the direction they need?
Well, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, tell them who you are.
Right.
We got him back. Big Connell, I served in the House of Representatives for a couple of years, and I represent Kershaw County right now, and just happy to be here today. So thank you that you all have been willing to serve on this panel along with the speakers.
Yeah, Ben, let me ask you, thank you again, we miss you there,
Richie sat right behind me, literally, and there were occasions where he had to reach out and slap me as a freshman and say, don't do that.
First off, and I say this everywhere I speak, and I think I speak for everybody up here. First off, you'd be surprised how many people in your district don't know what we do. They will call us thinking we go to Washington every week, they make $200,000 a year, all of those things, and they'll call and they go, I'm supposed to call you about something. Who are you? And we spend half our time explaining to them, I'm your state representative, or I'm your state senator. And you need to know who your representative and senator is in your district. Every single person, if you live in South Carolina and you're in this room, you have a representative and you have a senator. You should never have to ask yourself who that is. Because we get inundated with phone calls, text messages, emails. Every night before I go to bed, I try to clear off my emails. And last night I cleared it off. And before I woke up this morning, I had 150 more. I didn't sleep long. You need to know who your representative is and who your senator is. Because we're there serving you in Columbia. We're not in Washington. We don't make $200,000 a year. We don't have all these perks that they get. We make $10,400 a year before taxes. before taxes. And so, you need to know, if you don't know who your representative senator is, when you go home today, before you go to bed, make sure you know who it is. And every 2 years, the House members are up for re-election. Every 4 years, the senators are up for re-election. So you need to know who they are. Because there'll be some time in your life, you need some help. And you need to call, and don't be that person that calls and says, I don't know who you are, but I'm supposed to call you. Because most of the time I get a phone call like that, I'll get back to you. If they didn't know who I was in the first place, they don't care what I call them back. So know who they are. We're here to serve you. We can't, if we make a decision, then after we voted, you call us and tell us it was a bad decision, it's too late. You know, we need to hear from you before we take that vote.
I'm gonna take one from my text here first. In what ways are you all supporting religious freedom for students at USC while ensuring minority traditions also get to exercise their rights? The closest one representing USC, Todd?
I don't know. And I give you an honest answer, and I want the difficult questions, because that's what makes these things fun. But I have not had that come up. And when I was on the dovetail off of what Davey said, that go to scstatehouse.gov, and you can put in your address, and that will tell you who your house member and your senator are. And then at that point, let them know what your concerns are. And I have not been approached about that before. I know we passed legislation regarding anti-Semitism years ago, and that applied to state agencies, and it also applied to USC. But I don't remember anything coming up recently where we addressed it. I see Shane reaching for a microphone.
Yeah, first off, I'll follow up on that too, to say, I think you would be surprised, the overwhelming majority of legislators are going to be very approachable, right? They actually want to hear from you, because we hear from a lot of groups, we hear from people all around the country, we get emails, we get phone calls from people all over the country about things that really that affect them and affect you. But I encourage you not to find who your legislator is, but try to develop a relationship with that person. Because I think you'll find that almost all of us are going to be approachable, and we actually want to hear what you have to say. When you're communicating with us, as opposed to not communicating with us. I think most of us will find welcome to that input. So I encourage you to, we're all South Carolina people, right? We're not, there's nothing fancy about most of us. We're just regular people who live in different parts of South Carolina, but we live in different parts of South Carolina. So I encourage you to do that as well. To ask a specific question, I can't, like Todd, I don't remember specific legislation that we dealing with college campuses. I would expand this beyond USC, because I do think there is concern. There is a lot of concern about whether universities are allowing free expression, free exercise, whether they are tamping down on certain groups, certain individuals. And I think that would be a broader concern than just USC. I understand this is where we are. But this is something that we occasionally hear concerns about. We do hear about this from constituents occasionally about, the university was pretty heavy-handed on this group or on this person. And I think typically what our response is to try to get more information about that, maybe talk with folks from that university, try to learn more about it before you start hammering away. And then if there are things that rise to the level that we think we do need to address, I don't think there would be any shyness about doing that. But like Todd, I don't remember anything specific in recent years where we've actually passed legislation to address some things. There probably have been some conversations with university leadership about ethics thinking and things of that nature. But I also think that we're in a much better position in South Carolina than you see in some other places around the country.
Well, let me maybe ask a different question, touching on what you, on the anti-Semitism bill that was passed last session unanimously by both chambers. It was said to have perhaps a practical effect on campus. You can can take it does it have a practical effect, or was it mostly symbolic?
Well, I think there's potential. What that really did was it was more of a definitional type thing, right? It defined what anti-Semitism is, but it was intended as guidance to universities, but anyone else within the state. And so I think to that point, it could help with that, because it probably does give some guidance about how leadership at universities should handle certain requests, or how they handle certain issues that arise on religious issues, specifically as it relates to anti-Semitism. But I think that legislation could be used for that point. It's not. I don't know that it was intended to address a specific concern, but it could be used as guidance at that point. So that could be helpful.
So this young lady has been standing there for quite some time.
Hi, I'm from Franklin Moore. I'm from Kershaw County, and I assure you I know who my legislators are. Don't think I ever answers the question, but I will ask a different question. Typically, local governments, I won't say typically, many local governments will use zoning laws to, for lack of a better term, inhibit religious freedom and or growth by trying to say that new sanctuaries or temples violate zoning ordinances. Is there a way that the state legislature could pass some type of law or legislation that would prohibit this practice?
In my opinion, I think we've already done that. 2 years ago, we passed the Freedom of Religion bill, where the state could not get involved and could not tell the worship places what they should and couldn't do. If it is being done, I think it needs, if I, as the only Baptist minister on this panel up here, if the town or the county came to me, and or any of my churches, I'm also the moderator in Chesterfield County for 75 churches or 65. If they were to tell us that we could not do something, I would immediately go into legal and probably hire this one right here to come in and to discuss it politely with our municipal folks and tell them that we are going to do it. I think it's already there. I think our Constitution protects us of that. Our state Constitution, matter of fact, I just had it pulled up. I mean, it was already there. And it said that we don't have the power to do that. In layman's terms, it breaks it down. I think that's where we're at. I think if they're doing it, they're overstepping their bounds, and we as citizens need to step up and say, no, you're not doing this to us anymore.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to speak to that, so I don't want to be out of order. So if somebody wants to finish that, then I got a different question.
Okay, we're good.
Nobody else sit through this kind of meeting and not say anything, but I feel compelled by my moral conscience. Clementi was like a friend to me the other time, another time. And I went through hell here, not from white folk, but from black folk, when I was trying to organize to become president of the Global Bishop Council, and it was him and Clementi who took me to many of y'all that I didn't know at the time. Fast forward, I flew in that night from Cape Town. It took almost 2 days to fly to get here. And in the morning, I had more sheriff in my yard than I ever dealt with. They were nice, and they told me that I was supposed to go to Charleston. The morning, but these 9 people got killed. It shook the very core of my being. It was unconscionable. And my brother, I love this state. This state has a way of rebranding itself in a positive way. So let me declare, I believe that the hate crime somehow, some way will pass. When, I don't know. Just like in the flag, I was grateful that
I got a call from the governor's office that I needed to be at the state house. And I said, no, you don't call me, you call the bishop. And they told me, no, we want you here because they saw some chip that I said years ago and still that the flag was, the people were not the problem. The image of the flag was not good for relationship, good for South Carolina, good for business, good for religious liberty. That the people of South Carolina have more in common than the thing that divide us. If my son or daughter went into a white church and the white church embraced him or her and loved her, and she decided on killing them because they were white, it's unconscionable. It's a hate crime of a superlative degree. I can speak this because I have benefited from white folk in this country. I was shocked 2 years ago that Bob Hudson, who called me brother, the Hudson's family have been nice to me, the Dick Smith family, some of you may not know me. They got me going, using to get me where I am, and that man right there, tired and a group, and I dance and I cry. And they asked me to preach the unity of Bob Hudson. They told me that white folk in this state are not all racist. It's a minority few. That white folk in this state are the most wonderful people to work with. And so I want to appeal to you. Your Trinity, your tip, I don't like out of it, but I pray for it. The Senate will pass this hate crime law. Because if the role was reversed, I will still speak the way I'm speaking. I was one of the first, Bishop Brown, myself, and the governor at the time, Lady Kelly, were the one who spoke to the folk. We told them nobody should go out, no riot, no burning, don't quit, no white folk. This is an isolated incident, and those isolated incidents make our state look bad. And there should be a law that I agree with you. You know, there is already the lawyer coded, a police, a lawmaker. That should not be. So I'm appealing to you, I'm begging you on bending knees. Let's pray about it. Let's try to do it. And I will come to the hill. I'll come to the house. I'll get a group of preachers to come as soon as I get with my travel schedule. To not intimidate you, to not disrespect you, to not pass judgment on you, because I believe you guys have a righteous conscience to do what's right, not for black folk, but for all us out there, and I thank you.
Amen.
I'm going to ask the next question. And this comes from someone out there, should we or do you believe religion should be taught in public schools? We do have a state law that says folks can go off campus for religious classes, and there is legislation that was pre-filed that would require the Ten Commandments to be posted in every classroom in every public school. None of these folks are actually sponsors, I'll add that. Along with this question of terms of teaching religion in public schools, what do y'all think about that bill?
The U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled what can and can't be taught in schools. I can't go in and teach John 3:16 because it has been proven over and over in the U.S. Supreme Court what can and can't. If it is tied directly to our Constitution, like in God we trust, the Ten Commandments, that can be taught in the schools. It has been proven over and over. What we have to do is go by what we know can and what can't, and what has sustained the lawsuits, what has sustained the fight, so to speak, for or against. So it doesn't really matter what we say, it matters what the Supreme Court said. It's already said what can be. I can teach in God we trust. I can talk to you about it. It can be student-led, without any problem. You can also do Bible release time, and etc. at the school facility, which has already been proven, and we're doing it in many counties across the state. So I think it kind of changes the question a little bit. But Supreme Court's already ruled what we can and can't, and it's held up over time.
I guess if the question is, should it be done, the should and could are probably two different responses. I actually think the answer is yes. So what I would like to see is a high school level course that's not a proselytizing type thing. That would be the concern, right? But more of an exposure type class. I mean, a class that teaches different religions all throughout the class and exposes children to the different religions and the beliefs and things of that nature, the foundations that are there. Because I think that exposure would help all of us be better at understanding and being more, like I really appreciated the previous speaker's comments, because I do think we tend to get in our silos, right? And I don't think there's anything intentionally bad about that. It's just we tend to gravitate, we revert to where we're comfortable, and that just happens to be the people that we have more in common with. There's nothing bad about that, but it does limit your perspective, and it affects how you see different things. I actually think a class, and I don't think it would be appropriate at elementary level or middle school level, but a high school level class that just exposes children to the different religions that are out there, especially those that are more prevalent in South Carolina, I think it would be a good thing. And you would get some pushback. There would be some folks who would push back on that, but I think that would be a good thing.
I 100% disagree. I don't want any government coming into my household telling my child what they got to study in school as far as what religion there is. I know that I am Southern Baptist, I am a Christian, nothing against the others, but that's when we have the release time that has been proven. It is in high school, it is in junior high, it is working. It can be done by different organizations, different situations, and it's not mandated. I will not stand, if it was my child, to be going to a state-ran, government-taught school on religion. Honestly, I don't think the colleges are doing it right. I think that you can't single it out and you can't justify it. I can go in and teach a class, and I can teach you and make you believe what I want you to believe. Representative Rutherford can go in there and teach you the same thing. So you can't be objective to it. There's no way when you're dealing with religion and teaching it, if you, in my opinion, that you can be objective to all religions and all situations. I can't go in a class I may can teach a class, but I cannot teach a religious class on someone else's beliefs. I'm only going to influence the way I believe. And so we are teaching it already in the schools with the release time. It is an option. It is there. No government money is spent. It's the teachers are having to get tested and or get evaluated to make sure that they're safe. They're having a background check. It's not mandated. It's an option by the release time, and it's held the time.
I'll just jump in real quick, and someone is asking, so would you be objected to an elective class as well?
We have that, and it's not costing the government a dime. We have it, it's called Bible Release Time. Every religion, every organization that has stood the test of time with the Supreme Court can go in and do their own thing and make it an option. It's already there without a cost to the government, and it's not mandatory. So,
one of the interesting things about that is from a 30,000-foot perspective, I think all of us would like to see people be educated on the facts about religion and different religions. But I think when you get down to where the rubber meets the road and you've got somebody in a classroom who is teaching religion, as Richie just said, you don't necessarily know what you're getting. And you can have two Southern Baptists that disagree vehemently about the Ten Commandments. And it says, thou shalt not kill. And do you believe that the government should be able to kill? Do you believe in the death penalty? Or do you believe that thou shalt not kill does not apply to the government? And you can have several preachers who disagree on that. And at some point, religion is going to get down to someone's personal opinion, and that opinion becoming what your child leaves high school with, not the facts about religion, but their teacher's personal opinion on what the Bible says or what that particular verse says. There's a colleague that we serve with who's been there forever, and occasionally we will have religious groups come to the State House, they'll come to the lobby, and eventually at the end of the conversation, sometimes they will say, well, let us pray for you. And she famously says all the time, no, because I don't know what God you pray to. And it's the first time I heard it, I was kind of shocked, because most times everybody just says yes. But when you think about it, and you think about how different people can take religion, and how some can pervert religion, and you look at what that means to pray with someone, it does become dicey as to her belief that, no, I'll pray alone, and I do, and thank you for the offer, but I don't need to pray with you for us to both believe in God. And so it's one of those things where religion is a sensitive subject. It should not be handled by the government, because the government does not tend to handle anything the right way. We mess up everything. And so for us to now be in the business of religion or indoctrination or non-indoctrination, I think it's dangerous. And I think that the time on your own to pray, to spend time reading your Bible, to read the Quran, to read whatever book that you see fit, I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
And I think that shows that Republicans and Democrats can agree and disagree on all kinds of issues. We're running short, but let's get a question up here.
I'll make it quick. Thanks for coming during the session. We appreciate your time. South Carolina is one of only 2 states in which the legislature selects or elects the judges. What, if anything, is the Judicial Merit Selection Commission and that purpose of evaluate and assess candidates' commitment to beliefs about track record of pain without religious liberty?
Let me quick, because I'm not an attorney. Don't pretend to be one and don't want to be one. But I have. We don't have enough time to get started on attorneys. The JSMC, that's telling you know what that is. JMSC is what's been established by the General Assembly as to look at the people that apply for these judgeships. And again, Todd and Shane are going to answer this question better than Richie and I. They live this lifestyle. They're attorneys by trade, so they're going to be able to answer this. I've served for 20 years, and I've said from day one, there's got to be a better way to do it. I'm not an attorney, never applied for a judgeship, never will apply for a judgeship, don't have any interest in that. When we get to the part where we elect judges, I have to depend on somebody like Todd or Shane or another attorney to tell me these are really good folks. You know, I read the report. We get a report on every single judge candidate that comes out. All of us are given a report as to what the committee found good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. We get that. And I read that report, and I'm still just as lost as I ever was. I don't understand all that language and all that kind of stuff. But until they come up with a better solution, that's what we have. And so I hear it all the time back home. Well, you don't. Why do you keep electing judges? Well, I don't want a judge to get elected like I do, where they go door to door knocking on somebody's door asking for donations to run their campaign, and then have to win by a popular vote. Because the first thing that's going to happen when my son gets in trouble and I voted and gave that guy some money, I'm going to knock on his door and go, by the way, remember who gave you a campaign contribution. So I don't want them elected by the general public, because that's not going to work. And so, until we change it, until somebody shows us any different, that's what we have. And I truly, I can go on.
Well, I will, just because I've been on JMSC for 10 years now, and I can tell you that religion is not one of the questions that we delve into. JMSC is set to find a minimum qualification of a lawyer who wants to become a judge. It is not a star chamber, as others have said. It is a lawyer minimally qualified to become a judge. Have they been practicing law for at least 8 years? Do they meet the age requirement? And do their peers find them? And I'm looking for the person that asked the question. Okay, there you go. Do their peers find them objectionable? If so, then they won't make it. but it is a question that any member of the General Assembly can ask. And in fact, members of the Family Caucus, members of the Black Caucus, routinely will have judicial candidates in to ask whatever questions they would like, because every member is entitled to vote for or vote against someone that's running for a judge. And I firmly believe that we had the best system in the country up until this year. We changed it this year, and so I don't know what we're going to have, but as Davey said, as Representative Hyatt said, we don't have public election of judges. We don't have them going out raising money, knocking on doors trying to get elected. We don't have a crony system where you had to get political donations and be a favorite of a governor in order to get appointed to a judgeship. What we had was a system where last year we elected a family court judge, Kaminsky, I believe, who was moving from Richland to Berkeley County, didn't know anyone, but was qualified, has done well as a judge, and was able to do so. It's never donated to a campaign. It's not anybody's political crony. We had the best system in the country to do so. Now, everybody says it sucks, and it does, but it was still the best system of all of that. Sorry. That's why I put